Hi guys, you're welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Tessie and today we'll be making a bustier with a yoke. We're going to be making this dress. If you're yet to subscribe to the channel, kindly do that and let's get right into the video. So I folded my pattern paper into two and this will serve as my starting point. So I'll take my shoulder measurement divided by 2. So the shoulder I'm working with divided by 2 will give me 8.5. Then I'll come down to my armhole line, my bust point, my under bust, and my half length. I'll go ahead now to connect my lines. After doing that, I'll indicate my chest line, my bust point, my under bust, and my half length. So for the neck, I'll be taking 3 inches, and on that shoulder area, I'll be coming down by 1 inch for my shoulder slope. So I'll go ahead now to connect my lines. So I'll check what I have on this chest line area. I have 8 inches divided by 2 will give me 4. And on that line, I'm just going to come in by half an inch. Then on the chest line, I'll place my bust measurement divided by 4. So the bust I'm working with divided by 4 is 10. Then I'll go ahead now to curve in my armhole. Using my curve ruler, I'll just curve in my armhole. So what I'll do next is determine how deep I want my yoke to be. So from the shoulder, you chalk how deep you want it to be. For me, I'm just going to be sticking with 6 inches thereabouts. So I'll go ahead now to connect it into a straight line. So this area will serve as my yoke. So what I'll do next is take my nipple to nipple measurement divided by 2. So my nipple to nipple is 8 inches divided by 2 is 4 and I added half an inch to it, that's 4.5. So I'll chalk 4.5 on all the lines and I'll connect it into a straight line. After doing that, I'll be placing my darts. So on the underboss, on this side of the pattern, I'll be coming in by 1 inch, while on this side I'll come in by 1.5. So I came in by 1 inch on this part and on this other area I came in by 1.5. So I'll go ahead now to connect it into a straight line. So I'll connect from the underbust to the bust point, coming down by half an inch to eliminate pointiness. So what I'll do next is come in by 1 inch on both sides. As on this side of the pattern, I'm going to come in by 1 inch and also come in by 1 inch on this other side. I'll go ahead now to connect it to the bust point. So you can also come up by half an inch to eliminate pointiness. So I went ahead to take out the areas that I'll be taking off. So what I'll do next is replace back the dart I took. So on this chest line, I'm going to replace back my darts on this area. So I went ahead to connect this line into a straight line, as you can see. So after doing that, I'm going to be replacing back the dart I took. So I took 2 inches dart. I'll replace it back on that point, as you can see. So I'll go ahead now to curve this in. So this will serve as my new armhole. So you need to replace back your dart because if you do not do that, after joining, your yoke and your fabric will not align. So this will serve as my new armhole, as you can see. So on my chest line, I'll be placing my bust measurement divided by 4. As you can see, my bust divided by 4 is 10. I'll replace back the dart I have on this point. And I'll be adding extra 2 inches for my sewing allowance. Then on the underbust, I'll place my underbust measurement divided by 4. And I'll replace back the dart I took. And I'll be adding 2 inches for my sewing allowance. On the half length, I'll place my waist measurement divided by 4. I'll replace back the dart I took and I'll be adding 2 inches for my sewing allowance. So I'll go ahead now to connect my lines together. So after doing that, on the armhole area, I'm just going to make the line visible. So on this side of the pattern, I'm going to be coming down by 1.5 inches. So you have to determine how deep you want it to be. If you want it exposed, you can go down the more. So from that point, I'm just going to cut in my neckline. So I'm going to be giving it a sweetheart neckline, as you can see. So for the yoke area, you determine which neckline you want for your yoke. If you want a round neckline, what you do is just from this point, you come down by like 3 inches for your neckline. Let's say 3 inches, and I'm just going to curve in my round neckline, as you can see. But I won't be using this neckline. I'm going to be making mine a V. So I'm just giving an example. So what I'll do is from this point, I'm just going to slant all the way here. That's how I want mine to be. So I hope you understand what I'm doing. So I want it to be a V neckline. So after slanting, I'm just going to label this part as my front yoke. Then I'll go ahead now to tick out the part that I'll be taking off. This part is not really necessary, don't mind me. So I just stick out the part I'll be taking off. Then I'll go ahead now to cut out my pattern. We are done with the front pattern. Before cutting, I'll label my lines. Then I'll go ahead now to cut out my pattern. So you can see what I'm doing. You can see how I cut out my yoke, right? If you've watched this video to this point and you're yet to subscribe, kindly do that and let's get right into the video. So guys, this is what the front looks like. So for the back, I folded my pattern paper into two. In case you're adding a zip to yours, go ahead, chalk your zip allowance and pull a straight line. But I won't be adding a zip to mine. So from the starting point, I'll take my shoulder divided by 2, which is 8.5. I came down to my armhole line, and from that point I came down to my half length. So I'll go ahead now to connect my lines together. Then I indicated my chest line and my half length. So on the shoulder area, I'll be chalking 3 inches for my neckline. Then I'll come down by 1 inch for my shoulder slope. I'll go ahead now to connect my lines together. So after doing that, I'll check what I have on that chest line area. I'll divide it by 2. Then on that chest line area, I'll place my bust measurement divided by 4, which is 10 inches. What I'll do next is just curve out my armhole. After doing that, I'll go ahead now to place my nipple to nipple measurement divided by 2. Whatever I have, I'm just going to chalk it and connect it into a straight line. So after connecting my line on the half length, I'll be coming in by half an inch on both sides. So on this side of the pattern, I came in by half an inch, and I also came in by half an inch on this other side. I'll connect it all the way to the chest line, coming down by 1 inch, as you can see. So what I'll do next is place my measurement. On the chest line, my bust measurement divided by 4 is 10. I'll be adding 2 inches for my sewing allowance. On the half length, I'll place my waist measurement divided by 4, which is 8 inches. I'll replace back this half an inch that we took, that's 1 inches. Then I'll be adding extra 2 inches for my sewing allowance. So now I'll go ahead to connect my lines together. After doing that, I'm just going to blend the chest line area. So I'll be adding a loop to the back of the dress. So you determine how open you want the back to be. So for me, I'm just going to be sticking with 1.5 inches. So I'll chalk 1.5 inches and I'll connect it into a straight line. So I'll go ahead now to tick this part that I'll be taking off. So this part will be going off. So now to prevent this bulge at the back, what I do is you can either come up by 1 inch on this side, then slant all the way down, or you come up by half an inch. So what I do is I come down by half an inch, then I slant. Then when I'm done drafting out the pattern and joining, I'll now cut the half an inch out. I don't know if you understand what I mean. So if you do not understand, just go up by 1 inch and then slant. So for the neckline, I'll slant from this point all the way down here. That's how I want it to be. But let me explain how to make the back with a button and a loop. So I'll come down by 2 inches and I'll just curve in my neckline. I'm just trying to explain. Then you determine how open you want the back to be. So from this point, let's say I'll come in by 2 inches, and from this other point, I'll come down by 3 inches, So what I'll do next is I'm just going to use my curve ruler to join the lines together. So you just go ahead to curve it. So you curve it in any direction that you want it to be. So this is how it's going to look, as you can see. Then I'm just going to put my buttons on this side of the pattern. So this is what it looks like. That's in case you want to add a button to yours. So but me, I will not be adding a button. So from this point, I'm just going to slant all the way down here. I hope we understand what I am doing. So I just slanted all the way down here. So this is it for the back. I'll label this as my back yoke. So I'll go ahead now to cut out my pattern. Then I'll cut out the yoke area as well. So guys, this is what it looks like. So I've gone ahead to cut out my fabric and I've added my wording and my interface into it. As you can see, this is what it looks like. So guys, I have a detailed video on how to perfectly pad a bustier. I'll drop the link for you to watch that video. After watching the video, you understand what I did here. So after joining my fabric, I'm also going to join the back area. I'll add my dart and join it. So this is what it looks like, as you can see. So what I'll be doing next is I'm going to be adding my yoke to it before joining with my lining. So for the yoke, I've gone ahead to cut out my yoke. This is what it looks like. So I'll go ahead now to place the yoke and the fabric together. Then I'll pin them down using my pin. After pinning this side, I'll also pin this area as well to make them overlap each other just the way I did. So what I'll do next is I'll be adding my lining to it. But before doing that, you can stitch all the way down. Then after stitching, just attach your lining and also stitch all the way down. So guys, I've cut out my back yoke, as you can see. So before placing the yoke, I've cut out a piece of fabric 3 inches wide. Then I just folded it into two and place it around the area where my eyelets will be. Then what I'll do is just stitch on it on the both sides. So after stitching on the both sides, then you place your yoke on it just the way I did, as you can see. Then I'll go ahead now to place my yoke on my fabric this way. I'll do the same thing for this other part as well. I'll place it on it. Then after placing it on it, you can stitch to secure the fabric together or just place your lining piece this way and then you stitch all round. So I'll go ahead now to stitch and show you guys what it looks like. So for the back, I use my bias to form a boning channel for the lining. So I'll be adding boning to it. So guys, this is what it looks like, as you can see after joining them together. So what I'll do next is just add my boning on the fabric. That's on this side where I have this black material. So I'm just going to add my boning to it. Make sure when you're cutting the boning, it doesn't get to the down part because you'll be stitching. So I'll add my boning to this other side as well. So what I'll do next is I'm just going to be stitching very close to where the boning is. So go ahead, stitch on that line, and after stitching, go ahead to give it a good press. So after ironing, I went ahead to tick where I want my eyelet to be. As you can see, it has to be in the same line. So take your time to do that. So I have a detailed video on TikTok on how to use an eyelet machine. So on TikTok, find me at So with Tess. You see the video there. So you need to watch that video if you do not know how to use an eyelet machine. So after ticking out my lines and fixing my eyelets, this is what it looks like, as you can see. So what I did next was to draft out my basic skirt pattern. As you can see, I took my half length out. Then from that point, I took the full length of the gown. So the full length plus my sewing allowance. This is what I have. So what I'll do next is to cut out the Ankara fabric. So the Ankara is shorter. So you determine how short you want it to be. So for me, it's 25 inches plus 1 inch for sewing allowance. So I chalked 26 inches, and after doing that, I connected it into a straight line. So what I did next was to place my net on my Ankara. So go ahead, place the net on the Ankara fabric just the way I did. Then we'll be stopping at 26 inches for the Ankara. So what I'll do is just fold my net up. So you go ahead, fold it up to that 26 inches. Then after folding, I'll go ahead now to cut out my pattern. So you follow the shape of the net. So after cutting, we are done with the front part. As you can see, this is what it looks like. So now we'll go ahead to cut out the back. So we'll do the same thing we did for the front. I chopped 26 inches, as you can see, and I folded my net up. So guys, I'll go ahead now to cut out my fabric. As you can see, so we are done with the front and the back. This is what it looks like. So I'll quickly go ahead to join my net and my fabric. Before joining them, I'll be cutting out my lining for the Ankara. So you need to cut out lining for both the front and the back. So after doing that, I've joined my net and the fabric together, as you can see. So I'm just going to be joining the back side and also joining the front side. I'm trying to make this video as short as possible. So now for the flounce, my fabric is not enough for a flounce, so I'm just going to be pleating. So for the pleats, I'm just going to check what I have from this waist down to the end of the dress, leaving some inches for folding allowance at the down parts. So go ahead, check what you have, and then you pleat. So the reason why I'm pleating is because my fabric is not enough for a flounce. I'll drop a detailed video on how to make a flounce and how to attach a flounce to your garment. So guys, after pleating, this is what I have, as you can see. So I left 1 inch on both sides for sewing allowance. So I'm just going to place my pleated fabric here and just place it around that 1 inches area. As you can see, just place it somewhere around that 1 inch, and then you place the back on the front. I'll drop a detailed tutorial on how to cut out a flounce and how to attach it to your garment. This tutorial is not really for it, so that's why I didn't really explain. I'm sorry. So after joining them together this way, I'm just going to take my time to arrange it. Then after arranging, I'll go ahead to pin it down. After pinning it down, I will stitch, and this is what it looks like, as you can see. So this is what it looks like. Mine is pleated, like I said. So I've gone ahead to attach my zip at the back side of the dress, and this is it. So for the sleeve, I folded my fabric into two and folded it into two again. That's four. I'm going to be cutting the two sleeve. So I cut out the excess at that top area, and from the starting point, I'm going to be taking the length of my sleeve. So after taking the length of my sleeve, I went ahead to use my free hand to curve out my armhole, as you can see. So I'm just curving out my sleeve. After curving out the sleeve, I went ahead to take my round arm measurement and also shaping that area, and I took my round wrist measurement as well. I connected the lines together and I went ahead to cut it. So basically just go ahead to cut out your sleeve the way you cut out a sleeve. So I went ahead to like readjust, and after doing that, this is what I have. I'm going to be joining the sleeve to the dress. So I'm just checking if I'm on the right track, which I am. So guys, for the structure sleeve, I have two pieces, as you can see, for the sleeves. So what I'll do is I'm going to be, you have to chalk how wide you want it to be. So for me, I have 9 inches, and from that 9 inches, I'm going to chalk how long I want it to be. So I'm just going to be chalking 14 inches. So I chalk 14 inches, as you can see. So from this top part, I'm just going to connect it all the way down. Just give it a slant from the top part, give it a slant from the down part, also give it a slant. I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. So after slanting, I'm just trying to blend that area, as you can see. So I'll go ahead now to use my scissors to cut out those parts. So after cutting out my sleeve, I'm just going to use a lining for it as well. So I'll go ahead now to cut out my lining as well. Then after doing that, I'm just going to pleat it, and this is how it's going to look at around that sleeve area. I hope you understand. So this is it. So guys, for the structure sleeve, mine will not be standing like, because I'm not going to be adding boning to it. So what I just did was to add paper stitch to my main fabric, I had to double it. Then for the lining, I just added one paper stay, as you can see. So if you want it standing, go ahead to add a boning on your lining. Add different channels for boning so it will be firm. I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. So for mine, I'm just going to be working with what I have. So what I'll do is just place my lining on my fabric and I will sew, and then I'll turn it out and iron. So after doing all of that, I'll show us the end results. So guys, this is the final result. As you can see, the dress is actually not my size. I made it for someone. I'm just trying to like show you guys how it fits. This is the back view. I'm really liking the back. Like the back is giving. I'm definitely going to make one for myself. I really love the outcome. Hope this tutorial was helpful, and please do not forget to subscribe to my channel, like the video, drop a comment, and follow me on Instagram at So with Tess. For now, I'll say bye.